Welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast. I'm Jim, joined by Anthony, Hank, special guest Ryan. Ryan, you joined us all the way from across the Atlantic Ocean. So you said that you're in England?
Yeah, just north of London.
Well, welcome to Draft Professor and the Mrs. R Relevant Podcast. Hank, this is your third podcast with us, and we still have one more to go on Monday.
Yep.
But welcome back.
Thank you.
And Anthony, we're warming up. This is our first Saturday podcast of this draft cycle, but Saturday should be a fixture for you going forward, right?
Yes, sir. Going forward now, I'll be Fridays and Saturdays. And I got quite the warm up because this is now my fifth podcast this week. But yeah, good time. Happy to talk some safeties today. It's going to be a very interesting conversation for sure. A lot of names to get through.
Yep. Yeah. So we have three safety boards. Hank's is to the left, Anthony's is in the middle, Ryan's is to the far right. And we're going to spend the first part of the podcast with each person talking about players, either that they're the only one that has the safety ranked, or if two people have the safety ranked and a third doesn't, that would fall into that category too. So, Ryan, one of the first players that I noticed on yours that you have is AJ Halsey from LSU. And we did an LSU podcast, and his name got called. We also did a sleeper podcast yesterday, and his name got called out. But what do you like about AJ Halsey, the LSU safety?
It's more the role he played in his previous stops. So, when he was at Houston, New Mexico, he sort of filled that middle hole role really well, and especially when he was a Cougar. He stepped down, played that rat role. He seems very comfortable in that, and that's really on vogue in terms of what's going on in the NFL. So it's the type of skill set they're going to be looking for. Someone who is comfortable stepping down but coming back on themselves. He had some big hits coming downhill from there. His catch technique could be improved. So when he's going out to the apexes coming downhill, on the rolls from middle field open to middle field closed. And he ended up having a couple of plays where someone went over his head. So I'm not super high on him in terms of is he going to be pushing the top guys? Not in my opinion, not just yet. But going into a better program, I feel like he's got some potential to climb into the day 3 conversations at least.
Okay, and Hank, one of the players that you had that Ryan didn't have was Robert Spears Johnson. And I believe he's Oklahoma, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we covered him on the Oklahoma podcast, but let's talk about him some more. What do you want to tell everybody about him?
So Robert Spears Jennings was his fifth on my board. And what I really think played into his ranking was that I feel like the athletes in the safety class are kind of lackluster. So when I found a good athlete, they immediately were jumping up on my board just because I was so tired of watching these average guys run around. So with Robert Spears Jennings, he improved throughout 2024. My note that I wrote down was coming downhill, he could kill somebody. He's an NFL level run defender and thrives with his athleticism. He does have a wide receiver background, so he does have very good ball skills. He's good at the point of the catch. I think he has a great frame for safety. I think that playing close to 215 is very good for his stock. He can play in the box and deep coverage, but I think that he's still developing as a deep safety, but I do think it's a possibility for his future. And then in zone coverage, I thought he looked serviceable, and I think he would be fine in NFL zone coverage. But same thing with the other Oklahoma player I was talking about, Sammy Omosigo. He just plays so fast, and he needs to pump his own brakes. I think he could do with just slowing down a little bit. He probably needs to be a more consistent player. He needs more snaps. And his man coverage as of now isn't the best, but as a run defender and in zone coverage, just as an athlete, he's super impressive. He could be a mid-round 4 guy, and he just needs to become more of a complete player.
Okay. So, Anthony, I guess the first safety, as I'm looking at your list, is Antoine Peak Jr. from Cincinnati. What do you want to tell everybody about him?
Yeah, so Antoine Peak Jr. So comes from a NFL family, which I'm always a sucker for. His father, Antoine Peak, was a former third-round pick, and this kid, Antoine Peak Jr., is a former walk-on who was fully committed to attending University of Cincinnati to follow in his father's footsteps, who I believe is in the Cincinnati. I'm not sure if it's like a Ring of Honor or what it's officially called, but he is a school legend. So wanted to follow in his father's footsteps playing there. And you are going to immediately see when you watch him, he is a king when it comes to forcing fumbles. He only played in 12 games last year because he had some injuries he was dealing with. But he had 4 forced fumbles in those 12 games. So basically 1 out of every 3 games, this guy was forcing a fumble. He is physical. He's 6'2", 210. So he's got that big frame that you're looking for. And he is not afraid to just run down a ball carrier and just punch that ball out. He is very good at doing that. He is a reliable tackler. I actually think he has pretty decent speed for a 6'2", 210 player. The issues that I run into with him, the injury I mentioned, it was a season-ending neck injury. So that's obviously a concern coming into this year, and we'll kind of see, how he comes back from that. Also just feels a little behind in coverage. I think he lacks some natural anticipation and overall fluidity in coverage. There are times where he loses the ball in the air. But if I think you bring him in as sort of a downhill big box safety that is going to be primarily for run support and being a physical tackler, that kind of role. But I think he does it quite well right now. And Cincinnati has a few sleeper prospects, I think, and I think he is one of them for sure, and a name to watch for sure.
Okay. Thank you. So Ryan, the next player on your list that wasn't on the others was Peyton Bowen from Delaware. I'm making sure that excuse me. Oklahoma, excuse me. I got to learn how to read. So Peyton Bowen from Oklahoma. What would you like to tell everybody about Peyton Bowen?
Oklahoma had obviously quite a lot of safeties in front of him in terms of Billy Bowman, for example, and he's still not had that experience as a full-time starter. This looks to be his first season, and there are traits in there that you can see, that he could grow into a bit further. He's a really short tackler. He fires downhill, especially he likes to fire from inside tight alignments, on the hashes, all the way out to the flats. And he's a really short tackler in those areas, which is really key in college football, right? So you got your swing screens, your RPOs. They're all going to get out and attack the flats underneath the quartz coverages that we're seeing. He's got not a lot of man coverage tape there because of the position he was playing. He was on the field with other safeties quite a lot. However, he's got a pretty poor QB rating against him, but it doesn't always tell the full story of safeties, right? Everyone who's evaluated safeties always knows that you can't really attribute stats to individuals in terms of in terms of blame. It's the easiest way to put it, isn't it? So I feel like he has enough tape in his run game. He has enough tape in a really good tape in terms of his tackling. I do feel like there's room for him to grow. As some of the others have said, down at the bottom of the safety class, it's kind of you look for traits. You're not looking for the whole picture, and he does flash some of those traits that I look for in terms of the physical play.
Thank you. So Hank, you have at number 6 from Toledo, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. We've covered him once when we previewed the entire MAC conference. He may have even been mentioned on the sleeper episode briefly last night, but what do you want to tell everybody about your 6th-ranked safety, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren from Toledo?
Really quickly, Peyton Bowen was number 16 on my list, so I do see a lot of what Ryan was talking about with Peyton Bowen, and I just think that he just needs to play well this year, and he could easily crack my top 15. But about Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, he stands at 6'3", 209 is what I have him at. That's what I found online. He's been impressive since he was a sophomore. He has good size and he has great arm length. He has good anticipation. I thought he read the quarterback very well. He gets downhill as fast as he can. I saw him go for the ball a lot when he was tackling, which gets me excited. He can make tackles other safeties can't, is what I said, just due to his length. And part of me does wish that he transferred to play up at a higher competition level to see what he would produce, like playing in the Big Ten or playing in the SEC. But I think that he needs to flash more versus higher competition. I think he has one game against an SEC opponent this year. I would like to see some big flashes in that game. I think that he is lengthy and you can find him on tape easily. He's a big guy, but when he moves, it didn't really look lengthy in a good way. It almost looked awkward. And maybe that's just me being picky, but I don't think that he's as coordinated as he should be. I think that he lacks speed to stick in man coverage, and I wouldn't really trust him in single high. And he is coming off a shoulder injury. But I think he plays Kentucky this upcoming season. If he can show some flashes against SEC opponents, that would really help his stock.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you just said. I feel he almost could move to Will linebacker. He's that big and he hits square. His natural power he generates from his lower half, like all good technique. He also really slices through blocking quite nice. He's got like a natural pathway in his head, and that is sort of traits you look for when you're looking at an Apex player. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I agreed. I really like him.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think for me,
it should be noted that Ryan has him at 10th on his list. So yeah. So Anthony, the next safety that you had on your list that wasn't on anybody else's was DQ Smith, who is from South Carolina. So what do you want to tell everybody about safety DQ Smith?
Yeah, I'll just add on because I have Emmanuel at 15, literally my last safety.
Oh.
So I'll just add on him quick. I love the size. I love the frame. I've seen the 6'2", 202 numbers. I've also seen some saying he's 6'3", 209, which would even be more impressive. But either way, this is a big guy. He had an awesome interception against Western Kentucky, and I think he tracks the ball well in the air as well. For me, I just thought he lacked speed, like you alluded to, Hank. I also thought he just kind of lacked suddenness and burst at times. And I maybe it is just like I hadn't really thought about like if it is just like a coordination thing or like I couldn't tell if it was more like a physical thing or a mental thing with him. At times I felt he lacked aggression that I would want from a bigger safety like that. But yeah, moving him to Will is an interesting thought as well. If he puts on a bit more weight, that's possibly something. But for DQ, so DQ Smith at South Carolina, this is a guy who's actually he was a quarterback in high school. And then when he got to South Carolina, he converted over to safety. So he has an interesting physical. He's 6'1", 219. And you can imagine from a school that just had Nicky Monwari come out, he's a pretty athletic football player. Again, like I said, former quarterback in high school. So you see really good closing speed, I think, for his size. He has, more athleticism. He's also a pretty good tackler, I'd say, a pretty reliable tackler. There are just times I think he still isn't fully comfortable in coverage. Somebody who doesn't have as much experience at the safety position as other guys we're going to be talking about. I think he lacks awareness. I see hesitation and being unsure of himself as plays develop. So I think he just needs more reps more time playing the safety spot. But from a physical, athletic standpoint, it's there. I think he brings some good stuff to the table for you. So yeah, right now, I should say too, like for me, I would say at least like 10 to 15 are day 3 players. It's actually probably 9 to 15 now that I look at it. So these are all day 3 players right now, but I think there's at least some sort of traits or upside that you can hope that they can build on going into this season.
Yeah. So Hank, we have a comment in the chat about Rod Moore being injured for the last 2 years, but we covered him when we did the Michigan podcast. And my impression from that was if Rod Moore plays, he's probably significantly higher on these boards than we have him now. But what's your impression of Rod Moore, the safety from Michigan?
Yeah, so Rod Moore, he fell down my rankings the more safeties that I watched, but he still cracked the top 15. I think he has great hands. He played wide receiver in high school. This is all pre-injury, so it has been a while. He did tear his ACL. That's not a hidden thing, but he was a willing and physical tackler. I think he has a super high football IQ. And before the injury, and I hope he can maintain it to a certain level, is the speed. I think he had phenomenal speed. He had great recovery speed, and that kind of set him apart. He is 6 foot 200, so I do think bigger tight ends and bigger wide receivers could be a mismatch for him. And the big thing for Rod Moore is I think he could be a phenomenal special teams player at the NFL at minimum. I think that should be his role. I think he'd be a special teams captain. I think he have a very successful career in the NFL at special teams. I think he's a draftable guy just based on his career at Michigan and how much of a leader he's been. But Rod Moore is definitely a guy I think should be in the top 15. And if he does bounce back from this injury, he could move into my top 10 pretty easily.
Yeah. And I guess we should probably add in a disclaimer, right? So on average, 17 safeties get drafted every year, right? And a significant number of them will be rounds 5, 6, and 7, right? So unless a team needs a safety and can project the player to be a starter really soon, they're going to fill the special teams role that Hank is at identifying for Rod Moore. So I think that should add some context to seeing a top 15 safety board 8 months before the draft. That being said, so Ryan, the next player that you have is Xavier Nwankpa. Do you want to tell everybody why you like Xavier Nwankpa from Iowa
absolutely.
cracking your top 10?
So it was interesting. I had to do 2 watches of him. The first watch, I was like, well, why is he on ranking lists? I don't understand this. He really struggled when he's last season when he was playing strong safety. He just, even though he's 6'2", 215, apparently, he just didn't like the physical side of the game. It was quite strange. He was in and around the box. He just did not understand, his run fits, for example. And then I went back and watched, because I was like, I don't really get this. So I went back and watched his 2023 tape when he was at free safety, and it is completely different. He is so fast. It wouldn't surprise me if he was the fastest safety in the class. Maybe Tal Johnson, but yeah, between the two of them, he can make stops in the flats, even if he's playing on the hash, he'll give them a couple of yards. That's how fast he gets out there. He understands route concepts, combinations. He plays with patience in those positions, especially trusting his speed, which is a big thing. He doesn't just auto blaze, just fire downhill. It's not thoughtless pursuit. It's calculated. He stays on top of things until he knows he can go downhill. He showed better hitting ability coming from further away as well, which is always a trait that the NFL teams look for. Is hitting's done 2 ways. You can be in tight areas, you can be in open field. He's a good open field tackler, not so good in tight areas. he's projected to move back to free safety, which is where he was at his best. So if that is unlocked, we do these rankings, there's a lot of projections in there. And this is a projection. It's saying, I think he can step up. I think he can get to the bottom of that day 2 grade.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, Anthony, second time you get to cover Bud Clark. We covered him on the Baylor TCU podcast earlier in the week. Anthony, tell everybody why Bud Clark should be on their safety board.
Yes, I will do. I will say I want to add on Wonkpa. So I know I don't have him on my list. And I don't remember if I said it now, but I have only watched these 15 safeties. So a lot of these guys I haven't gotten to yet. Wonkpa last summer scouting for last year, he was actually my number 2 safety in summer scouting last year. And he had I didn't rewatch him, for summer scouting this year, but I loved the combination of size, athleticism, and ball skills, and the speed that you were talking about, Ryan. Like, all of that was there. He just needed to improve his IQ, his football IQ, and his play recognition and things like that. And when I caught glimpses of Iowa, watching other guys or, games on TV or whatever. And he just didn't, he had a down year. It didn't, elevate his game the way that I and other people wanted him to. But I absolutely understand. Honestly, if I had evaluated him, I could probably guess that that 9 to 11 range is probably where I'd have him. So Wonk was a great call out. Bud Clark, for those who did not watch on Thursday, you will not know that I am a big Bud Clark guy. So this is a redshirt senior. He is one of the best when it comes to being able to track and then make plays on balls that are in the air. He has 11 career interceptions for TCU. He is just so good at reading the quarterback's eyes, then being able to break on routes and, again, make those plays on the ball. He's a good athlete. He's 6'2", 189, which is not, height-wise fine, but the weight is definitely on the lower end of the spectrum. You don't love that. It will lend himself to being overmatched by blockers, sort of losing out when receivers get more physical with him. But he also plays multiple spots. TCU is one of those schools that loves playing guys in a variety of positions. So you'll see him take snaps single high. You'll see him as split safeties. You'll see him in the slot. He does different things for the TCU defense. The best thing for him in the NFL is going to be playing high, whether that be as a split safety or in single high. I think he can do both, but you want him in coverage. You want him on the back end, again, using his natural ball instincts and playmaking ability to be able to make plays on the back end of your defense. He also, I will say too, there were times where he was vulnerable to quarterback pump fakes and double moves and stuff like that. So he's kind of got to clean those up. For some people too, people will knock him for the age. I've just always been someone that if you can play, you can play. And, as long as you get to a second contract, you have value. I don't really care how old you are. So, redshirt senior doesn't bother me as much as I'm sure it would for other people. But yeah, Bud Clark is one to watch for sure. Hey man, we are not ageist here.
Hey.
I stand for our older brothers
And NFL
nobody
teams
has
are
Jalen
ageist.
Catalon.
That's
Nobody-
true. No, Jalen Catalon, yeah, I would. That's actually a fair age criticism, I will say. But no,
Wait, isn't Bud Clark only 1 year younger?
Yeah, well, that 1 year makes a difference. For,
Yep.
no, I don't think age is actually even the problem with Jalen Catalon, but that's a separate conversation.
No,
I think-
I agree. I agree with Cameron, by the way.
So
Yeah,
I think age matters if you go on day 1 or day 2.
I think age matters. I think it works the opposite way. If you want to say, oh, a player is higher on my board because he's younger, I think that's completely fair because you're banking on, like I know this is not a safety, but Caleb Lamu, for instance, the tackle from Utah, he's going to be a redshirt sophomore, but he's so good now, so early in his career, that part of the reason people love him is, oh, wow, he still has all this time to develop, but he's already so technically sound and so good as a football player. So I understand that if you bump up and elevate prospects because they're younger, I am not the guy that's going to knock people down because they're older. It was the same, like the Michael Penix, one of the arguments against him was he's an older quarterback. Do you think Atlanta cares now that he's an older quarterback when he's about to, I think, be their franchise guy? Like that's my sticking point with age, but I don't need to.
I don't want to go on the age thing for too long, but with quarterbacks it is a bit different because there's so much good. Their peak is so far beyond any other position. Like quarterbacks don't peak until they're 29, like 30,
right?
Like yeah. Whereas safeties they rely a lot on open field speed and also just tight hips get to you at that age. Trust me. So yeah. And with Bud, I don't think I saw enough to make up for the age. That's why I left him off my list personally. If he was explosive at an older age, fine, but I didn't see that personally.
So Hank, you are really high on Terry Moore from Duke. So you're not the only one with Terry Moore on your board, but you have Terry Moore as your third overall safety. So go ahead, pound the table, and tell everybody why Terry Moore is that high.
So Terry Moore, and for age, the only time where I think about age is with a running back. That's it. Other than that, I don't like to account for it. But Terry Moore transitioned to safety after his freshman year. He was playing running back, so he's only been playing collegiate safety for this will be his third season, I think. He's played free safety. He can probably play in the box, and he's played in the slot as well. He has good ball skills and great natural hands. I think he's good in the run game, and he's physical for only being 196 pounds. I think he makes up for his lack of speed with good pursuit angles. I think he looked almost too natural in man and zone coverage for having such limited experience at the collegiate level. His offensive experience shows in his instincts on defense, and the entire transition to safety almost seemed too natural for him. Some of the problems, though, I had with him was his missed tackle percentage was at 15.5. So I'd like that to get cleaned up. But I think that's just going to come with time. I think this year he's going to be able to clean that up. He's like I said, he was an average athlete. And I do think he doesn't really have athleticism to sacrifice by putting on maybe 10 more pounds, which would put him up to about 205. So I think that if he could put on a little bit more weight, clean up the tackles, I have a round 3 grade on him right now. So it's just a drop off in the safety class from the top 2, but I think he'd be a mid to late round 3 guy with a good season.
Okay, so we have 3 more players we're going to cover just to make sure we've hit most of the unique players. So Ryan, you have Gavin Gibson on your board. Would you like to tell everybody about the North Carolina safety?
So he was an East Carolina Pirate last year. So he's not got far to go on his transfer ways. I coach safeties and one of the things I can't get away from even when I'm analyzing, trying to write the profiles, trying to get them right down to a T. Sometimes you just go, he moves well. It's so simplistic, but he just glides through space. Really naturally. He's got a really strong lower half, big thighs. He can also has natural hips, so you can flip any direction downhill, anywhere you want. And he makes quick adjustments in those tight spaces. He has zone instincts. He peels off of in breaking routes. He didn't play pattern match, but you can see pattern match skills straight in there. And now he's going up to his, it's not the highest level of competition, but it's a much better level of competition. And genuinely, when I was watching Chevron Rebel Jr. last year, I kept looking at the guy. He went on my list straight away. I was just like, who is this guy? I've never heard of him. And yeah, now he's going to get a chance. Now he's a Tar Heel. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see him step up. But it's that natural ability I can't get away from. He looks like he could be the best player on the field.
Okay, and the next player, Anthony, you get to talk about VJ Payne again. So,
I'm excited. Yeah, so VJ Payne. I feel like because have I talked about him twice now? I think I've talked about him twice this week.
This might be the third time, but then there was a whole Twitter thread, and yeah.
But you know what? It's a great story, and for those of you who are fresh to it, welcome. So VJ Payne, he is a big athletic specimen. He's 6'3", 211 pounds. He's a senior safety at Kansas State. He is not just an athletic specimen. He has been clocked in spring practice running over 23 miles an hour. Kansas State, coaching staff says he is the fastest player on the team, which for being, fast in general is one thing, but being that fast at 211 pounds is pretty impressive. Also has just really good size, really good length, lines up all over the field. The play that I have told the story about, and it's on my X, Jalen Daniels in the Kansas game scrambles to his right as VJ Payne is coming as a blitzer, initially avoids getting sacked by Payne, but then as Jalen Daniels begins to roll to his right towards the sideline, VJ Payne, using that 23-mile-an-hour speed, just chases him down for a strip sack. It was a 4th down, so that effectively ended the game. He just shows that kind of both the speed and athleticism, and then also just the hustle to make those kinds of plays. You'll see that, all throughout his tape. I know Hank is chomping at the bit here to talk about VJ as well. But there are moments where, he gets outpaced in coverage. He gets stiff in coverage. He hesitates. He has some missed tackles that you don't want to see for a 6'3", 211-pound guy. There is absolutely stuff he needs to clean up, technique-wise and stuff like that. Things that, need to be coached up. But you just can't teach the traits that he has. And I mean, I'm looking through my list of safeties and the other safeties that I know something about from the other lists. Like, I don't think there's any other safety that has the physical athletic profile that Payne has. And if it's a big if, but if there is a Nick Emmanwori in this class, VJ Payne, I think, is that guy.
Okay, so Hank, where are you on VJ Payne?
So VJ Payne was a guy who I just recently watched. I saw the clip from Anthony, I think it was like 2-3 weeks ago, of him chasing down Jalen Daniels. And I put like a mental note in my head, forgot the mental note, but then he was brought back up. So I went and turned on the tape, and I was very impressed. I mean, it's not hard to find this guy when you're watching film. He sticks out. I think that he stuffs the run super well. He gets downhill. He lives up to his last name when he hits people, was a note that I made while watching him. He has good form. He has a good frame. Another thing I took note of was I was watching, I want to say it was the Iowa State game in the dead winter of Midwest cold, which is not fun. And he was out there with no compression, nothing. He can be a cold weather player, which matters when it comes to the cycle for these kind of early day 3 kind of guys, in my opinion. And as Anthony said, he was clocked over 23 miles an hour. And I do wish that Kansas State blitzed him more. But some of the things that I had problems with was his hips don't turn, especially if he has to turn twice. I saw a route where he got flipped and then he had to flip again. And by the time he flipped again, the guy was like 8 yards away from him. He was nowhere in the vicinity. I wonder what his NFL role would be, just because I don't trust him entirely as a pure safety. and I think he could get up to 220 and play on maybe the weak side. I don't entirely know, but there's definitely a role for him somewhere. And then I watched a play where he was going up against a tight end wearing number 49, where he got beat. He proceeded to grab him. He didn't turn his head around, and he got called for pass interference. And then the last thing was the clip that I posted on X, where there's a halfback lead or a read option. I'm not entirely sure, but there's one gap that opens up, and VJ Payne, he darts up there. He's filling the gap, but then for some reason, he turns his entire body left and just looks left for about a second and a half. And he just got completely lost on that play. So there's a few just awareness things and technique things that need to be refined. But the player VJ Payne is, the player that he could be, is super promising. And right now I have him as a mid-round 4 guy. I do really like VJ Payne.
Okay, and then your next safety is I've already lost track.
Zakee
of the
Wheatley
notes.
from Penn State.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Zakee Wheatley, he's a bit older. I think he's 22. I think he's a redshirt senior now, which it doesn't really matter, but it does come into effect. He didn't have any penalties last season. I think he's hungry in the run game. He got downhill quick. He likes to hit, and there's a role for him in the NFL, but I don't know if it's at safety. I think this is another guy who could transition to special teams just with how much he wants to tackle and how much he wants to hit. He wasn't a serious player until his redshirt junior year. He has lots of room to improve in coverage. And I do think that as of now, he's a midday 3 guy. And I think if he just became a special teams player, he'd have a guaranteed NFL job for 10 plus seasons.
I mean, that would fit his varied background. He's a point guard and small forward in basketball, and a pitcher and center fielder in baseball. So he's just one of those, I'm a very good athlete. Just put me where I can affect the game the best. Yeah, I did like the raw tools, but the fact that I'm seeing raw tools as a redshirt senior, that was why he dropped off the bottom of my list.
Yeah.
And then Ryan, you have one more safety that was unique to your list, and you actually have Miles Scott as your 5th overall safety. So tell us why you're going to pound the table for Miles Scott.
For a 5'11" guy from Illinois. Yeah, I see traits that NFL scouts are just going to absolutely love in terms of he can affect what the quarterback is doing. Like against South Carolina, he had Sellers beaten twice. So Sellers thought, okay, yeah, I've got this route combination. There was a post corner scissors, and he thought, oh yeah, I can see man, and then Miles Scott peels off of that, makes a break up. Like it was a brilliant bit of safety coverage play. And again, he seems like his teammates hang him out to dry a bit too often, because later in the game he's playing cover 3, and they have 2 verts going downfield. He sits in the middle of them for as long as Sellers would dare. And with Sellers, he's going to dance around and he's making his own space, and then he eventually decides, I can't wait any longer, I've got to throw this. And the whole time he was sat in between these 2 seams, and then he broke on the one where the ball was going to, hammered through the back of the player, and not the ball out. He has that confidence that you want to see. He's directing everyone around. He's also got that you can see he's switched on. He's making pre-snap adjustments based on motions. It's just all the stuff you want to see as a leader in a safety. It's just going to come down for me is his physicality is not 100% there, and his missed tackle rate is pretty high. He's missed 16 tackles, 21%. That's extraordinarily high. However, he was put in these positions a lot by his teammates not doing their jobs. So I feel like he is going to be one that, if he can clean that up, he can genuinely get into the early day 2 conversations with just how good he is in terms of working in space.
Okay, and then I believe, was there one other player that we haven't talked about yet?
Yeah, Isaac Smith.
Thank you. Go ahead, Isaac Smith, Anthony.
Yeah, so Isaac Smith, junior at Mississippi State. He has another sort of thicker, stockier build. He's 6 foot, but he's 220 pounds. Arguably, might be the best just pure tackler, or at least one of the best just pure tacklers that we're going to talk about. I don't know why I don't have the number in front of me, but he has like a very low missed tackle rate. You'll see he has great tackling technique when he comes down in run support. Not afraid to be physical at all. He fits right at home in the SEC. Also, consistent effort is something you'll see from him. Every single game, every single play. I think there are times where he can be that downhill player and be that physical run stuffer. But I do think he just lacks some natural instincts. There was one play, I believe it was against Tennessee, where he just visibly like misjudged a route and just got burned by the receiver. Actually, it might have been Georgia. I'm not sure now. He doesn't have great ball skills, I don't think, right now. I don't think he is a top speed guy, but it's not really something you would expect for a 220-pounder. I think right now, he is sort of a primarily in the box, run support kind of player, rotational guy that, maybe can offer, some upside in coverage if he works on that and gets better, but that's not really his game. And I want to see maybe he can add something as a blitzer. It wasn't, a major part of his game at Mississippi State as of this point. But 220-pound guy, you kind of like him to be able to do that if possible. But yeah, overall, it feels just very role specific. But I think he does that role pretty well. So that's why I have him at, what do I have him at? 11?
Okay, so we're going to pause, and then after we do our commercials, we'll come back and we'll talk about the top safeties. So the first, let's say, disclaimer or what's going on at Draft Professor that I'm going to share before we kick into the commercials is that every position group is going to get what we would call like a summer scouting watch list show. This was it for safeties. So the next time that this channel is doing like safeties is going to be halfway through October. Dom and Steve are going to be taking safeties 8 at a time, and they're going to be dissecting them with 2025 film. So that'll be Thursdays, 7 p.m., starting like the second or third week of October. The Thursday podcast literally will be, let's take 8 safeties, break them down, and we're going to repeat that for 5 weeks. So that means that we're going to cover 40 players. Now, 8 of them will be slot corners. 8 of them will be, are they a safety or are they a corner? And then 24 of them are likely going to be the players on these lists here, kind of thing. So that's the next time that the channel will be covering safeties. That being said, Hank, do you want to let everybody know who you are and how they can find all of your draft content?
Yeah, so I mean, you can find everything NFL Draft with the handle you see below me at Hank Knows Ball. I've been ramping up a lot of the All-22 tape I've been posting, just clips of what I like, what I dislike, so people can get an insight into my vision on stuff. Gonna be ramping up probably a Substack soon, a YouTube channel soon. Just need to figure out the logistics. So when I get that finalized, it will be under the same handle. But as of now, that's a work in progress. But I love the draft, and it's a second Christmas for me, and I just enjoy coming on here and talking about it.
Awesome. Ryan.
So all the stuff I write is I write for a channel called Thinking Football so I do some of their scripts, especially around draft content. And the main work I do is I'm a big Chargers fan. Me and my friend run a website which is stormcloud.blog. I post my profiles on there every year as well as my big board and my positional rankings. So it's all live on the website, and we also have a podcast, Paddock podcast, but that's just focusing on the Chargers in season in case there's any Chargers fans in the chat. But yeah, all my contents will be posted at stormcloud.blog, including some long form written articles as well.
Well, thank you for guest appearing. It's definitely been a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Anthony.
Thank you for having me.
Yep. As always, you can find me at Anthony_Russo97. My top 100 is out on my X, and I haven't been totally eviscerated by everybody, so that's cool. You can find me here, as Jim said earlier, Fridays and Saturdays. I'm going to be doing weekly. We're going to keep doing quarterbacks on Fridays, and we've got a slew of different Saturday content that we're going to be doing as well as the college football season quickly approaches. And honestly, Hank said this is his second Christmas. This is arguably my first Christmas because I'm more of a Thanksgiving guy. But this is always a pleasure to be here, especially when we get new guys like Ryan, and I mean even Hank is still a new guy to me. But yeah, this is always a pleasure.
So it's definitely a pleasure when, like Anthony, you're showing up twice a week, helping keeping the channel go. So I am humbled that you are involved, and I truly appreciate all of your contributions. So you can follow the channel at NFL Draft Fanatic, no I in Fanatic. And our schedule, tomorrow we're doing an offensive tackle board. Monday, we're doing the Texas draft class. Tuesday, we're doing the Florida draft class. Wednesday, we're doing a tight end show. Thursday, we're doing a mailbag with Devin Jackson. Friday, we're doing some quarterbacks. Saturday next week is Draft a Team. And then Sunday next week, we are doing a cornerback top 20 with Dalton Miller, Ian Cummings, Brian Maffey, and E.J. Holt. So what you get with this channel is daily draft content. So if you're here and you liked what you saw, go to YouTube and hit that subscribe, please and thank you. We have 22 podcasters at the Draft Professor that do their 1/7, which means that they show up once a week. And by them showing up once a week, we're able to literally create a podcast every day on the draft that hasn't been created before. So it is unique draft content. Starting halfway through October, we begin breaking down every position group 8 players at a time. So, for example, Anthony's Friday podcast is going to break down linebackers, and you might recognize Sam Teets and James Foster. He'll be breaking down linebackers with them. Then he's going to turn around on Saturday mornings, and he is going to break down the offensive line class 8 players at a time. So through summer scouting, we've built up our watch lists. We're going to keep, obviously, monitoring our watch list for the first 6 weeks of the season. And then we are going to start breaking them down 8 players at a time. So by the time Anthony's offensive line podcast is done, they will have probably broken down 72 or 80 offensive linemen, about 60 of which get drafted. And then depending upon what other position you're interested in, you just need to know what night of the week they are. There's going to be 3 podcasts covering defensive line. There's going to be 2 on wide receivers, 2 on DBs, 2 on offensive line, etc. So again, the best thank you can give is to hit that subscribe on YouTube. There are a lot of people watching in the middle of the day on a Saturday. This was not what I would have considered a peak podcast time, but the Draft Professor audience is continuing to humble me. There's a lot of you watching right now, so thank you. Okay, so the star of the hour is Caleb Downs and Dylan Thieneman from Oregon. They're the top 2 or top 3 safeties, depending upon whose board you look at. So, Anthony, I'm going to pivot this to you. If you had to compare and contrast Caleb Downs to Dylan Thieneman, how big is the gap? Floor is yours.
Yeah, so in terms of their placement on my board, I think I'm higher than Thieneman overall. I have Caleb Downs at number 2, and I have Thieneman at number 4. So they are, to me, both top 5 talent-wise players. The safety position is obviously a position that come draft time does not get overly valued. It gets very undervalued, actually. So I would not expect both of them to be top 5 draft picks. I think Caleb Downs maybe could make that argument, but we've seen safeties that probably deserve to be top 10, 15 players and not go top 10, 15. It's also interesting because I think they're very different players. Caleb Downs is more of your, downhill, instinctive, just reliable, incredibly high football IQ, able to just make plays all over the field. His ability to cover ground against the run is just so awesome to watch. Whereas Thieneman is, your super athletic, rangy center field, just can make plays, on the back end of your defense, and also just is so fast in pursuit. So they are both very successful players in very different ways. And I think that creates a sort of interesting, it's an interesting juxtaposition that I personally could see a world where Thieneman goes before Downs in the draft because of team fit and scheme and how Thieneman would be in a defense versus Downs. But I do think at this point overall Downs is the better prospect, and he's probably the best safety prospect we've seen. I mean, at least since Kyle Hamilton, and even then, I might argue Downs is better than Downs at this point is better than Hamilton was the summer before he became Kyle Hamilton. But the trajectory for Downs is very high, in my opinion.
Okay, so Hank, are you going to double down on Anthony that Downs and Thieneman are that close, or how close are they to you on your board?
So I just started putting together my big board, and Downs is the number 2 player in the class for me, and Thieneman is the number 7 player in the class. So not 2 and 4, but I mean, it's still 2 top 10 players in this class. And the one thing with Thieneman that I think would just help the most is, one, he was all over the place for Purdue. I think having a more consistent role at Oregon is going to help him a lot. I think playing next to better guys is going to help him a lot. And I do think that he is a lot closer to Downs' level than people realize. He's young. I'm pretty sure he's the same age as Downs as well. He has elite speed for the safety position. He flies around the field. He hits hard. He's very versatile. He plays center field. He can even play in the slot. He plays a robber. And the only thing that, if I'm going to be super picky about him, is just, I think that at some points he's a little over aggressive with his angles. He's almost getting there too quickly. He's almost just too fast for his own good. So just pump the brakes a little bit. But the prospect that he is just insane. I have a blue chip grade on him right now. I think that no matter what, an NFL team is going to put him to good use. But with Downs, he's the second best player in the class for me. The only thing that I was being super picky about with him was that I don't know if I can trust him to be single high in coverage by himself, but that's really it. He looked like a bigger Budda Baker or Eric Berry to me. He looked so advanced compared to everyone else on the field. I said that he moved like water. He's elite in zone coverage, and he's still sticky in man. He's also a return man for Ohio State, so he has another aspect of his game that NFL teams can use. He's been a leader. He was a leader at Ohio State after just transferring there. Anthony touched on the run support. I think he's elite in run support. I think he's an elite tackler. He is such a very good prospect. He's an elite prospect. And if I wasn't so high on Xavier Scott, he would be my number 1. But he's a top 2 player in the draft, and he's very good. Just very good.
Okay, so Ryan, Bray Hubbard was 9th on Hank's board. Bray Hubbard was 3rd on Anthony's board. Bray Hubbard is 2nd on your board. What do you like about Hubbard that you ranked him ahead of Thieneman?
I think it's part of it is I'm biased when it comes to scheme. There are tiers when it comes to scheme, and he has played in the most complex scheme there is in terms of the basis of the Ripplers, and then going forward into Kane Womack Swarm scheme. Like, though he came up through Saban and that was Womack, and through those he's become so confident in everything he's seeing in front of him. He plays slow, gradual, but then goes fast, and he gets there perfect timing. He's really good in coverage as well. Like, it's not just in terms of playing top down. He's able to step into a player who's turning up the field. He can play from too high really well, which is obviously fitting in with the modern NFL. He's a big guy. I think he's bigger than he's even listed at 6'2", 208. He looks bigger than that on film. And he hits hard. His run support is outstanding. He knows his gap control. He knows his leverages. He can work in phase. He can pursue. Honestly, he's so smooth in all of it. But honestly, I don't see that many weaknesses to his game. He's so well rounded. He could step into any scheme and be adept at the very least. And I feel like it's all going to come down to how he tests. If he tests at that top end, I feel like he's going to shoot up boards really, really quickly. And I feel like he's got the scope to do it. I think he's got the scope to get into the bottom of round one, genuinely.
Thank you. Okay, so for the people that listen to the podcast in Spotify, I'm going to go through the names and I'm going to read them off of Anthony's board down the middle, and then I'll pivot if the names on some of the other boards are different. But the safeties that we're talking about right now are Caleb Downs, Dylan Thieneman, Bray Hubbard, Kamari Ramsey, VJ Payne, Zakee Wheatley, Bud Clark, Tao Johnson, Isaiah Nakobia, Michael Taff, Isaac Smith, Terry Moore, DQ Smith, Antoine Peak Jr., Emmanuel McNeil Warren. And then other players that are mentioned on some of the other boards, Robert Spears Jennings, Cole Wisniewski. Did we already mention Zakee Wheatley? Yep. And then you mentioned, okay. And then Rod Moore from Michigan, Keon Sabb from Alabama, and then Miles Scott from Illinois, Gavin Gibson from North Carolina, Xavier Wankpa from Iowa, Emmanuel McNeil Warren. I think I may have mentioned him once already. Cole Wisniewski, I think I mentioned him once already. Peyton Bowen, and AJ Halsey. So from the three people that came on the podcast, I think that's about 25 safety names that make up the top 15. I lost track. I was not counting on my fingers when I did that. That was just spur of the moment. So Anthony, I'm going to give you Kamari Ramsey. He's the fourth ranked safety for all three people. But Anthony, go ahead and talk about Kamari Ramsey for a little bit.
Yeah, I have a feeling we're actually going to see pretty, which is funny because we've seen so differently on basically everybody else. But Kamari Ramsey, we're actually going to see probably pretty eye to eye here. I thought Kamari Ramsey was actually going to declare last year, which I know would have been shocking because he's only still, I believe, a redshirt junior at this point. So it would have been shocking in the sense that he was a redshirt sophomore, but he had a very good season. He is just so good in coverage in general, particularly in man coverage. He is very sticky in man coverage. Like, for somebody who doesn't play corner, like, he plays safety, but he will stay with his man, able to break on routes, has really good ball skills, just super fluid in general. I think he's also very instinctive. He is a guy who really can just be a blanket of a defender in coverage for you. I think as great as he is in coverage, I think the issues come when when you ask him to be in run support. I think he gets overmatched by blockers. His tackling is not great. He doesn't overall. I mean, I think he's listed at 6 foot 202. I wouldn't be stunned if he was under 200 pounds. Not like egregiously, but in that 195 ballpark. But either way, I don't think he has the physicality that you want for a safety to play against the run, in the same way that like we talked about with Caleb Downs, and Bray Hubbard. I think is better in that regard, but he is lights out in the secondary against in the passing game against other quarterbacks and receivers. He can be just so locked down. And it would not surprise me if he improves those, if he gets more consistent as a tackler, and if he's able to fight off blocks a little bit better. I absolutely could see him elevating into potential back end of the first round. I think I have him like 50 something on my board. I forget what it was. So this is like firmly a day 2 guy, but like has the makings of possible first rounder if the season goes well for him.
Okay. So Hank,
I know
we haven't talked about Cole Wisniewski from Texas Tech. So if you want to add anything to what Anthony just did on Ramsey, go ahead. But then also work Cole Wisniewski into the discussion.
So I will add Ramsey. His missed tackle rate last season was at 20%, and it was at 9% the year before. I still think I like his form maybe more than Anthony does. So I really think it was just a down year in terms of tackling. He's a way better tackler than what we saw last year. He was better I want to say he was at UCLA before. But Kamari Ramsey, I do really, really like. He's an okay athlete, but I mean, if you just want a guy who can play good coverage, read the quarterback, have a nice IQ, Kamari Ramsey's your guy, and he will play on Sundays. And I think he's going to take a jump this season compared to because I do think it was a little disappointing at USC last season. And I think there is still room for him to grow. But with Wisniewski, the first thing that stood out to me when I was watching him was, well, first his frame. He's listed as 6'3", 221 is what I have. And this is like the first guy when I was watching safeties that had a legit NFL like frame that stood out. So I wrote first guy with legit NFL size. Thank God. He can play in the box. He can play center field, although I wouldn't play him in center field. And he can play in the slot. He's very good at run defense. He was a mismatch at the FCS level, so I'm excited to see what he can do at Texas Tech this year. And I think that he's a strong player. I think he's a smart player, but he just has to play up to his competition this year. And I think he is more of a linebacker. I think he is more of a weak side guy. And the biggest knock on him is that he's coming off of a season-ending injury. I'm pretty sure it was a knee injury, but he just needs to play more fluid and just stay healthy. And I think Cole Wisniewski can easily be an early day 3 guy.
Okay. So Ryan, you haven't had a chance to weigh in on Kamari Ramsey, and then right behind Kamari Ramsey on your board is Keon Sabb from Alabama. So feel free to chime in on both of them.
I mean, it's definitely the first time we've been aligned on a player when it comes to Kamari Ramsey. I feel like he grew more confident as he went on, but I feel like, in the red zone where you don't really have the opportunity to think, you just got to react. That was when he was at his best. He was fantastic. And I actually know the reason he didn't get declared for the draft, Anthony. Tyler Warren sat him down 3 times in the same game. So,
yeah.
I don't think you can go into a draft room with that tape on your books.
That's fair.
And with Cole Wisniewski, I liked him quite a bit for considering the jump in level he's about to make. And one stat that just obviously take it with a pinch of salt due to the level of competition, but he had more yards from interceptions than he allowed in coverage. So, yeah, 239 return yards on 8 interceptions. That's in 2023. So, yeah, crazy. But in terms of Keon Sabb, he's one of those guys that I feel kind of in every safety class, there's a few that are just physical specimens that will just hit. really come down, blow through screen blocks. Even take on. I think he took on a couple of guards, and Keon Sabb is just that guy. He will just fly down and hit. He's not the biggest. He's not like a specimen. He's 6'1", 205, but he is cut. As you expect your Alabama players to be. He plays the game at full speed. It's fun. Like with safeties, sometimes you're like, okay, I'm watching. Like I describe safeties as the negative space in paintings. Like you're not looking at what they are, you're looking at what they're not, or where they're not, or where the quarterback hasn't thrown. So to come down to a fun player like Keon Sabb, may be interested, especially after going through a lot of the same types in the class. He's still a little bit stiff in his hips, especially when he breaks down in close contact, when it gets towards tackling, and it did lead to a slightly higher missed tackle rate, especially as he flies in at a really high pad level. But I do think he's got to clean up a number of areas of his game, but the fact that he can do all of that whilst playing in a very complicated scheme is, a really positive sign for me. He can definitely reroute combinations as well, which is not always the case for thumpers like himself. So yeah, definitely one to watch.
Okay, so we have not covered every safety, but we've also been going for more than an hour. So from that standpoint, we are going to close the podcast down. If you are listening to this on Spotify, if you watch the YouTube feed, there is a graphic that has everybody's board on it. So you're welcome to either follow Anthony, Hank, or Ryan on Twitter. You'll probably see their safety boards, or you can just go to YouTube and you could screenshot the graphic from the podcast if you want to criticize where everybody had their rankings. But for Ryan, Hank, Anthony, for myself and the 85 podcasters at the Draft Professor, thank you for watching, everybody, and we'll see you on a podcast again tomorrow.